Hello, everybody, and happy Friday to you. A couple announcements right off the top. First is our holiday break starts next week. So Jasmine and I are going to be taking a little time off, December 22nd through the 1st. There won't be any video critiques. We're going to be taking a little break from a little computer time to spend some time with our families. I'm going up to the Adirondacks with my wife and kids, and we are just going to do some hiking and getting away from the screen for a little while. But that being said, I will be checking in occasionally to see what you all are up to. It's just that no video critiques between the 22nd and the 1st, so Monday will be the last of the video critiques. But don't worry, again, lighting challenge for this month is extended through the end of February, or the end of January until January 31st, so no big deal there. Number two, we have Alessandra Mata's animation files are now on the, you can download them from the Lighting Work in Progress channel. And there is some, there are some missing files for the animation that Jordan's attaching to that. So if you open it up and it's just a T pose, don't worry, we got some files coming for you as well. Okay. The third thing I wanted to say before we get started with the look is I got a couple comments today from people who are talking about giving feedback to one another and unsure if they were in a place where they felt comfortable giving feedback to somebody. And I wanted to tell all of you that don't feel shy about giving critiques and feedback to one another. You all have good eyes, you all have unique perspectives, and it's valuable for you and for each other to just like learn from each other and to talk about each other's work. Talking about artwork and giving your feedback will not only make you a better artist, but it'll make the recipient a better artist too. You don't always have to be right. Like I am constantly giving you guys, be like, hey, I think this should be brighter or that should be darker, and then you do it. And I'm like, actually, I think I was wrong. So being right 100% time is not the goal. It's just about getting better all the time. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up there. Okay, let's go ahead and go through today's submission. So Ashley, we'll start with your sushi thing right off the top. So with this one, I think it's coming together really well. I think the characters look really cute. I'm looking at this and I really just kind of want to focus all of our attention kind of in this central area here. So I know we've probably talked about implying more stuff happening off screen, but I actually think we should kill this light and just keep it all about what's happening here in the center. And then same thing with this one, like killing this light off of this side and just making it more shaping on the character coming across from this way. You may want to smooth this out because I'm seeing some faceting coming around there. Also on these two, although maybe that's just the case when the carrots are cut this way, but it's just nice. Really what it is the wasabi is nice and smooth and everything else is a little bit faceted. For the wasabi itself, it would be great to get a little more detail in the shader there, just because it probably wasn't set up fully to see quite this close. So if you can, and this is all just like ideal stuff, if you can, I would just add a little bit of detail into a texture map or two there. The central part of this character's face is getting a little bit lifted. I like this darkness level. I would try and kind of match that up a little bit. Yeah, and then I would kind of go from there. It's hard to tell. I think that's backscatter of light coming through that, but I'm not quite sure what that little slit of light is there. So I would make it more kind of light coming from behind the object there, but it's kind of hard to tell there. But yeah, this is looking really great overall. Donika, I like this a lot better. The car looks a lot better. I would just soften the light rays coming out of this just a bit more. The actual lines that are coming out are a little bit hard-edged. I would just soften those, and then I would call this one done. I think that's looking really, really good. Maybe desaturating it a little bit too, just because like the saturation point on this isn't. I know it doesn't have to match the surroundings, but just kind of getting those to match up a little bit better will be good. All right, Jenn. So this one's a lot of fun. So the things that I would have you do is I'm really liking the focus on these two characters in the middle, right? Like there were comments in the chat window about it. It's really all about like getting our focus in on those two. So I'm wondering if like all the light that's kind of back here, I would consider toning that way down. And think about this as like a dance floor at, or even like a theatrical stage where everything else is kind of darkened around it, and then all of it kind of centers around this central portion. And then making the ground a little bit brighter underneath them. But I'm really liking the way that that's structuring out, and like I'm fine with. And I'm actually wondering, maybe we should kill these lights too, and then just make it about like these glowy orbs. Because these aren't really, like, I don't really feel this light's influence on this character as much, and I think that's fine. I think we could actually maybe even turn those off for the time being. They're fine back here, but I guess, just tone them way back. And we get the focus in on there, and then... Oh, and then the other thing would be, like, this one especially, but all of them a little bit are kind of ambiently glowing. I would try and think about it as like a variation, the way that Ashley kind of has some variation in there. I would think about adding something like that with maybe even like a glowy, a stronger source in the middle of it, like emanating the light from that, and that would be good there. But yeah, this is looking really well and coming together nicely. I really just want to focus in on those two characters a little more, and just like the way that this character is up here just being hinted at, and this one's just being hinted at without being overtly lit. I think we can do that for the rest of it. All right, Jordan. This is looking good here. I like the colors, and I just trying to think. Yeah, I would say for the next iteration, let's throw that background out of focus. Let's do a little depth of field in there, because I think that'll really help focus in on the character. And then I know you had some volumetric light back there. Let's go ahead and try and push that back in, and we'll see how that looks against the character. But I think this is coming together really well. And this is one of those, like, if we weren't going to defocus it, I would say soften that edge a little bit. But I think the depth of field will help smooth that out a little bit. So let's go ahead and give that a try for our next iteration. All right, Mindy. We've got some good reference here. So when I was looking at yours initially, my first thought is that I'm not convinced that this is outside, right? Like, this feels like an interiorly lit scene. And the reason for that is a couple things. Number one, like, if you look at the reference, there's just like a lot more bounce light, a lot more, like, the shadowed areas are a lot more filled in. And that's because, like, you think about this like very large, very broad skylight kind of going around. So I would say, and these are from like an overcast day. So for you, I think that we really need to emphasize like more bounce light, more skylight, more fill light, kind of light, just kind of surrounding these characters a little bit more. Also, the look of this distant background feels very clamped and feel very toned down. The way that this has some nice, like, bright, nice, like, vibrant brights. This back here feels very muted and dulled. So I would work on, and then looking at these shadows, it feels like the light is very frontal. I would have it come in more like at an angle, like at a 45-degree angle to the characters. So that the shadow would kind of just like spill out over here to the side a little bit, and that would actually generate more shaping. And then we can really push more skylight into the scene, or like with a sky dome, or even an HDRI map if you have one. No biggie if you don't, just a thought there. And then lastly, the one thing you want to watch out for is something about this orb feels like it's in focus while the chopsticks are out of focus. It might just be the glowiness of it, but like I would look into that. I think those are the main points that I would hit moving forward. So, but the biggest thing is, like, let's really get the feeling of outdoor light by increasing the key light and then increasing some of the fill light values in there as well. All right, Nigel. This is the previous version. This is the newer version. I like the outside a little bit more. With a little bit of the saturation. The one thing I would split the difference on the brightness, because one of the things that we're losing is like these rain droplets on the windows now, and I kind of miss those a little bit. Additionally, I like this a little bit brighter on his face than, yeah. I like the brighter version of the face. This rim is looking good. Circularity there. Yeah, and then I like. It's funny because like there's more bounce, kind of reflection of the outside in the other one, when really it makes more sense if it was here. Like we're seeing more reflection off of this one. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was I was looking for some reference on the amount, the color and the amount of light on the character's skin. And I thought that our original submission winner from, I forget who did this one, Selwyn Lowe. And I not necessarily, the skin tone can be a little bit more rich and saturated, but I think the value of the skin tone is really nice, and the way that the light is kind of hitting from the top down and fading off, and we're getting like kind of the soft shape around here and soft bounces. I figured like this would be a really good reference point for you in terms of the value of the skin. And like I said, you can change the skin saturation and hue, but I think from a value standpoint, that'll work out really well. And same thing on like the arms, and getting that shaping there, and some of the variation on the back as well. So just overall the kind of shaping as a whole on the character, I think you can take a look from that. So I think that'll be good for the next iteration there. All right, Shibli. So this one's looking cool. Yeah. Biggest things on this would be to get some brightness in the source of these lights in here. Like this one's getting good, but like you really want there to be like a bright, and you can see this in the reference. I know we're getting away from the reference a little bit, but you can see that from those light sources in the surrounding, how they're really, really crisp and bright back there. And then just watch out for these. Yeah, you know what it is? It's just like these hard edge lines on the characters are just, it's like I get why they're there, because of the light refracting around the room, but like it's just that they're so hard edged, they feel a little off-putting, and they almost feel like a mistake on the character. They feel like a weird roto edge or something. So I would just soften those a little bit overall, and then watch out for things like whatever's happening back here, in this part of the image. It's just like there's a really hard, like there's really like crunchy hard edge stuff going on back there. And then, and obviously this is just a work in progress, but I would start doing some sample tests, because it looks like you're getting a lot of noise grain in some of the depth of field and in the shadow areas as well. So, but yeah, this is really starting to come together well. I'm very, very happy with this one. So excellent progress there. And lastly, we have Perle with your Poker Puss update. So looking good. I like the color on the character a lot. I do think that we can start working like artistically placing some more of this deep dark atmospheric into the foreground, because it's like it's not quite feeling underwater because there isn't that atmospheric in there. So I'd like to try and sneak some like underneath, like you can keep this is going to be tricky, but I think a little bit more of the kind of foggy atmospheric underneath the table, because like if you squint at it, there's actually more darkness down here and more contrast than up here because of the darkness under the table. So like I would lift that up with some fog, and then creep a little teeny tiny bit of it into some of these in front of the character as well, while leaving just these foreground objects like this in here and this in here to be the darkest points. The other thing that I really liked about some of the reference, I like that you're getting brighter back there, was like really feeling like the edge of a space back there, like really feeling like there's like cliffs or walls or something setting back in space, and so that you can kind of like make this section brighter and then this section a little bit darker, you know what I mean? Like, so you actually are feeling that there are, the way that these objects are here, you can feel that there are some more objects back into space there. So I would just check on that. And then And this just can totally be, because it's still, you can totally do this in like Photoshop or Nuke or whatever you're using, but there's a connection point issue between the edges of these rocks and the sand. If you could kind of like paint, like just brush the edges of those a little bit so it looks like they're not hard edged cut into the sand, that would be great. Maybe even a little bit here around the character too. You can play around with that. But this is looking really great. I almost forgot you there, Kat. Okay, so I liked this iteration better with a slightly more brightness. The second version that you sent me. I think that one looks a little bit better. I like the added glow on there. Left shoulder looks good. I think the shadows look really good. I know you said you're working on the smoke and the eye-dings. Totally fine. I would just push. The other thing I would do is just push an added rim light just on his shoulder there, just again to match that brightness level on the edge of it. So like just like in here, just like in that like tight little spot in there. I think that'll help a lot. So let's see it with the next iteration. I know you said you're still working on the smoke. Make sure it's actually funny, like if it's blowing in front of the trunk or behind it, I guess it would kind of wrap around it, wouldn't it, if he's that close? But I'll let you work through that a little bit more. And then additionally, there's this kind of shape on the jacket, like a texture. I would see if I could reduce the size of that a little bit. It's a little bit big. But other than that, really, really strong stuff. Really, really great stuff. So excellent work there. So great job, everybody. This is all looking very promising. Super excited to see what you guys come up with over the weekend. Mondays are always my favorite because there's always so much. So, and this week will be no different. So looking forward to see what you guys come up with, and I will see you on the other end of the weekend. All right, happy lighting, everybody.